Welcome to the CSLB license application walkthrough. In this video, we'll go through the application step by step, breaking down each section and giving you tips to fill it out correctly. Have your application ready so you can follow along and complete it as we go. Before we dive into the application, there are a few important things to keep in mind. First, if you're filling out the application by hand, be sure to use blue or black ink only. If you're filling it out digitally, you can type in your responses, but remember that signatures must always be completed by hand. Take your time and be very careful while filling out the application. The CSLB will not accept paperwork with scratched out marks or corrections. If you make a mistake while filling it out by hand, print a new sheet and start over. They're very particular about neatness and accuracy. Also, be sure to leave no space blank. If a particular question or section doesn't apply to you, write NA in the blank space. This shows that you read the question and confirmed it doesn't apply. Lastly, you may see instructions about providing proof of insurance or bonds, but don't worry, these are not required until after you pass your exams. For now, focus on filling out the application completely and accurately. Let's get started. In Section 1, Box 1, you'll need to enter your full new business name. Be mindful that your business name must accurately reflect the classification you're applying for. For example, if you're applying for an electrical contractor license, you can't name your business ABC Roofing or ABC Construction, as those are misleading. However, a name like ABC Electrical is perfectly acceptable. If you include an entity type in your business name, such as Incorporated, LLC, or Corp., it must accurately match your actual business entity. For instance, if your business is an LLC, you cannot include Incorporated in the name, as this would misrepresent your entity type. Finally, if you're including an acronym in your business name, you'll need to submit a separate statement with your application explaining the meaning of the acronym. In Box 2, you write in the classification you are requesting your license in. In this example, we'll put C10 Electrical Contractor. In Box 3A, write out your business mailing address. In Box 3B, write out your business street address. If it is the same as the mailing address, write out the entire address again. Do not leave this blank or write same. Note that the street address cannot be a P.O. box or a private mailbox. In Box 3C, you are asked to provide a business phone number, fax number, and business email address. It is recommended but not required to list your business phone number. If you have a fax number, you are welcome to list it, or simply write NA. If you have an email address at which you are currently receiving emails, you are required to provide it. If you do not have one set up yet, you are allowed to write in NA and provide it at a later time. Please note that your business phone number and fax number, if provided, will become part of your public license record. Your business email will not be public. Let's move on to Section 2, Box 4. Here, you'll need to declare the business entity you're applying the license under. This means identifying whether your business is a sole proprietorship, a LLC, or a corporation. Be sure to select the option that matches the entity you've already set up, and write in the corporation or LLC number. If applying as a partnership, put in the Federal Employer ID number, obtained by the IRS. Let's move on to Section 3. This section requires you put in the qualifying individual's information. The qualifying individual is the person who meets the experience and examination requirements for the license, and who is responsible for exercising supervision and control of their employer's or principal's construction operations to secure compliance with California State Labor Board's laws, rules, and regulations. Typically, this will be the person watching this video. In boxes 5A and 5B, write the qualifier's information. If the qualifier does not have a middle name, write NA. If the qualifier only has an initial for their first or middle name, write initial only after the initial. The residence address must not be a P.O. box or private mailbox. Note that the residence address will only be used for internal administrative purposes and will not be made public unless it happens to be the same as the business address. In box 6, write the qualifier's existing, or previous CSLB license numbers, if any. If none, write NA. Then, write the percentage of the business owned by the qualifier. If you are the only owner, then you own 100%. If there are multiple owners, write down the percentage owned by the qualifier. Then fill in the driver's license number and residence phone number of the qualifier. In box 7, indicate the title or position held by the qualifying individual. It's important to pick the correct option that matches your business type. Let's break it down. Sole ownership. If you're a sole proprietor, you'll select owner. If you are the qualifying individual working for a sole proprietor and own 0% of the business, select responsible managing employee, RME. RMEs are employees who oversee the work but do not own the business. Corporations. For corporations, the options are Responsible Managing Officer, RMO, or Responsible Managing Employee, RME. RMOs are typically owners or executives within the corporation responsible for its operations. If selecting RMO, list the titles that the qualifier holds, like President, Treasurer, or Secretary. If you are a corporation and you are the 100% owner, list all three. LLCs. If your business is an LLC, you have more flexibility. You can choose from Responsible Managing Officer, Responsible Managing Manager, Responsible Managing Member, or Responsible Managing Employee, depending on your role in the company. Lastly, don't forget to sign and date box 8. Let's move on to section 4 on page 2 of the application. Before doing anything, write in the business name as listed in section 1 of the application at the top of this page. Failure to do so will result in a rejection of the application. Section 4 is for adding additional personnel, other than the qualifying individual, that will be listed on the license. This applies to additional officers, members, managers, or directors of a corporation, or LLC. If you are applying as a corporation or LLC, only list additional personnel if they are included on the Statement of Information with the Secretary of State. If you are applying as a sole owner or otherwise have no other personnel to write in, simply cross this section out to indicate it does not apply to you. Note that this page, even if not filled out, must be included in the application. Let's move on to section 5 on page 3 of the application. Before doing anything, write in the business name as listed in section 1 of the application at the top of this page. Failure to do so will result in a rejection of the application. Section 5 contains 6 questions, with the first 3 applying to everyone listed on the application. Be sure to review each question carefully with your team. If anyone answers yes to any of these questions, make sure to attach the required documentation as instructed. Question 13 must be answered by the qualifying individual. It asks if you, as the qualifying individual, will provide direct supervision and control over construction operations. This includes one or more of the following activities: supervising construction, managing construction activities by making technical and administrative decisions, checking jobs for proper workmanship, or providing direct oversight on construction job sites. The answer should be yes. Question 14 must be answered only if the qualifying individual is a responsible managing employee, or RME. If you did not select RME in section 3, line 7, do not answer this question. Instead, leave it blank and write NA. If you did select RME in section 3, line 7, you must answer this question. It asks if you, as the responsible managing employee, will meet the requirements of Business and Professions Code, section 7068C, by working at least 32 hours per week or 80% of the total hours per week that the applicant's business is in operation. As an RME, you must comply with this requirement, which means you should answer yes. Question 15 explains that the examinations are administered in English and asks if you will require the use of a CSLB approved translator. If you select yes, information will be sent to you regarding the translator process. Let's move on to section 6 on page 4 of the application. Before doing anything, write in the business name as listed in section 1 of the application at the top of this page. Failure to do so will result in a rejection of the application. Section 6 of the application covers the qualifying individual's education, apprenticeship, licensure, and military experience. This section may allow you to receive credit toward the experience requirement or qualify for expedited processing, depending on your background. Question 16 asks if you have completed an educational or apprenticeship program. If you have, you may receive up to 3 years of credit toward the 4-year experience requirement, as long as the program was accredited and relevant to the trade. If you completed an apprenticeship, you'll need to provide a copy of your apprenticeship certificate and list the program dates where requested on the application. If you have not completed an educational or apprenticeship program, select No. This won't impact your ability to qualify for a license as long as you meet the full experience requirement through work history. Question 17 asks if you hold an active license in the same classification in another state. If you do, you may qualify for a trade exam waiver through reciprocity, provided you meet the CSLB's requirements. To apply for this waiver, you must submit a license verification request form with your application, completed by the licensing agency from that state. However, even if your trade exam is waived, you are still required to take the California law and business examination unless you have passed it within the last 5 years. Question 18 asks if you are currently or have previously served in the United States Armed Forces. If yes, you may be eligible to receive expedited processing and a 50% reduction in the initial license fee. Simply provide evidence of your current military orders or a copy of your DD-214 form. Question 19 allows you to waive both the license application fee and initial license fee if you meet both of the following requirements. First, you must be married to, in a domestic partnership with, or in a legal union with, an active duty member of the U.S. Armed Forces who is currently stationed in California under active duty orders. Second, you must already hold a valid electrical license in another state, U.S. territory, or district. If you meet both of these requirements, select Yes and be sure to include documentation with your application. This includes proof of your current electrical license, your marriage or legal partnership, and a copy of the active duty military orders. If these conditions do not apply to you, simply select No and move on. Question 20 asks if you were admitted to the United States as a refugee, asylee, or under a special immigrant visa. If this applies to you, select Yes and include the required documentation as outlined in the instructions. The CSLB offers expedited processing for applicants in this category, so be sure to provide all necessary paperwork to avoid delays. If this does not apply to you, select No. That wraps up the CSLB application form. Next, we'll go over the Certification of Work Experience form and walk you through how to fill it out. But before you go, I want to give you something that could save you a lot of time, money, and stress. Every contractor applying for a license in California has to pass the CSLB Law and Business exam. And here's the thing, over 70% of people fail it on their first try. To help you beat those odds, we're offering a 100% free practice exam. It gives you a real taste of what the actual exam is like, with questions modeled after the ones you'll see on test day. You'll get detailed explanations, guidance on what to study next, and even instant access to the first 10 lessons of our full prep course, all completely free. No credit card, no trial, just solid prep. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get started.